How's it going, YouTube? Coming soon today with another video, and today, guys, the brain is going to be where to Handtrap the new dictionary for post info, and I really do hope that you enjoyed today's video. A ton of work is put into these videos, as always, and a lot of it is from my testing into the new format, so it's just going to give you a pretty accurate view into what we're looking at coming up in July. If you haven't already checked out my sponsors over on Imperium Duelist, Dragonshield, Gem, Cloud, RAW, Grimoire, or ChainLink, definitely go ahead and do so all down below in the comment section. While you're down there, hit that subscribe button so we can get to 22,000. I appreciate y'all. As always, let's hop right on into it. So, Mulchummy is going to be good into multiple decks, but just keep in mind, like, against any kind of, like, a Dark World deck, like the Rogue decks, with Dangers, if you play against Spright, if you play against Vanquish Soul, like, these are the decks that are really going to lose to this card. Could you imagine playing against Spright and they go summon 4 Sprites out of their hand? Insane. Like, that'd be crazy. This card is just so broken. There's a lot of matchups where this just is stellar. I didn't put this on like any single deck today. You'll see at the very top up here where I would put like the overall ones that are gonna be like really good. So like Droll, Shifter, and Nibiru, when those are really good into a matchup, you'll see those up here. The other thing is that I want to do Fiendsmith by itself, because when I do Where to Handtrap, I'm always going to be talking about the individual engine. I'm not going to be talking about like the extended engine usually. Since Fiendsmith is like the overhanging like extension of an engine, I just want to show you where to Handtrap the engine, and then you can kind of make the call whether or not you find this engine more important to stop or their base engine. So we'll kind of talk about that as we go through the video. So in the Fiendsmith engine, you really want to be able to hit Sequentia. This is the link too that shuffles everything back to Fuse. This is where you want to stop them primarily, but you can Bell the effect. But if you have Bell, you're always just dropping this on the Lurie trying to come back from the graveyard. You can also Crow Lurie, which is really strong. You'll probably most likely have Bell on your list over Crow because you're probably going to Bistrels. Just make sure you have Bell for Lurie. It just makes your playline really awkward. It's just really not favorable for them. Then also just Ashing Tractus is going to be really popular. So keep that in mind as you go through. Stopping the Lurie is going to be really good. But if you just have like an Imperium, stopping a Sequentia is going to be just as strong. Going into Plant here, you'll see some of these that just get left kind of open because they're just really bad in the matchup. DD Crow, realistically, this could just be like Rika Princess, and you just like Crow the Princess early, but I didn't find it relevant enough because usually there's like 2 Princess in the grave anyway, so it just never really comes up, right? There's a lot of times where like if they have like a blend in the grave already, you can preemptively just go ahead and Crow it. If they put Bang Lantern in the grave for anything, you can go ahead and Crow it. If they go like Melodious Revive Loci, you can just go ahead and Crow it there. There's a couple like really good instances. If they have Regulus in hand and you know about it, you can just Crow the Lily before they activate Regulus effect, because if you activate it when they activate Regulus effect, then the Regulus will still summon. So there's a couple like okay Crow targets, but you're just never bringing in Crow into this matchup, so I didn't want to include anything here. Ash into Sowing is still going to be prime. It's really strong. You can Bell the Graveyard effect of Blend to go ahead and fuse into Magnolia, which is still really strong too. I do like this as a nice little stop here. Ghost Ogre on Con is just going to be the most broken in my opinion, because it gets rid of most of like the hard interruptions, because like this card is just a menace, right? So when they go to set with it, you can just Ogre it. Then always just stop the Jasmine. This is a card that you want to stop no matter what. It's very, very good, and you definitely want to stop this as soon as possible. Then Droll is like okay, it's not like insane. Sometimes it can play through it, but a lot of times it will just be like really impactful. So definitely Droll, and then definitely Shifter. Shifter is really nice. Talking about Purrely here, if you have Ash, please hold it for the spell when they summon the Baby Noir. The next spell they activate after Baby Noir, you want to Ash it so they can't use the effect of Baby Noir to go ahead and set. It's a when effect, so it's like Lady Labyrinth, where you have to interact with something, or else they just get the open window to activate the other effect of the card. So Ash the spell after Noir is summoned. DD Crow the Purrely target, so they can't upgrade. And then you can Ghost Ogre on my friend, and then you're, as always, just going to be stopping the Purrely on summon. This is just the best one. It's really weird. There's a lot of times now where we're seeing 2 white cat in the main deck instead of 3 because they want to make more room for like non-engine, which is definitely interesting. But just know that's pretty usual now, so we'll see how that goes moving forward. And then of course Droll and Blackbird is crazy here. So Spright, the best side card for this is Dark Ruler, so keep that in mind whenever you're going through your deck building, because I think this will be pretty popular. I really do love Spright right now as an option. It's really nice. So we have DD Crow onto the Mirror Mage. I think this is really nice. If you have like the freezing chains and you target the Mirror Mage, hitting it with DD Crow to prevent the Toad from coming out is going to be really prime. Magnuma can hit like anything out of their grave. That's obviously like one of their dark monsters, but it's not going to be an interruption. This is just going to be something to get on board, so I didn't want to put anything here because this is just like not a good card in this deck. Definitely DD Crow and the Mage is better. You want to Ash the Gigantic effect. If you already have some other kind of stoppage in your hand, like any of these or like an Ogre, then you can just Ash the starter, which is fine. Bell the effective freezing chain. Again, you just want to play keep away with the Mirror Mage. I think it's really worthwhile. Just denying your opponent a Toad access, because if you deny that, then they can't double Toad you with double cross. Which is why another thing too is like if you already have like a nice stoppage for like a gigantic Spright, you could hypothetically hold one of these for the Jet summon and just stop the Jet from getting the double cross because that card's really busted. Some lists only play the starter, but I think it's getting more popular now to play the double cross as well. And so if your opponent ever goes like normal summon Beaver, special summon Angler, and make Sprint, a lot of times this is just a really prime hit because it just shows they don't really have a whole lot otherwise. They really want to be able to summon out 2 Beavers and then overlay the Sprint into a Gigantic. So this is always going to be a really nice hit too, because they also have to have starter, red, or carrot to extend, because you cannot summon blue or jet if you only have a link. Voiceless Voice, this deck is kind of falling out of the meta right now, which is a little weird, but it definitely is happening. D-Shifter and Droll are both pretty solid. I think Shifter is just way better into this than Droll, but if their hand's really good, then they can play through Shifter pretty well. But they have to open like God. So we'll have to see how that develops later on, but as far as right now goes, it's still pretty safe to say, like, on even an average hand, having the D-Shifter is pretty nice. They play a little bit better through it, though, with Blessing. DD Crow, whenever they use Diviner to get tributed by the Trias, you DD Crow the Diviner out of their grave before everything resolves, because it'll be in a new location. They can't resolve the Diviner to go ahead and summon a low from deck. You can go ahead and use a Bishal or DD Crow on Saphira or low when it tries to come back to the board. I think either or here is fine. I definitely like getting rid of the Saphira, though. It's really strong. Ash or Bell onto either Saphira or pre-prep. Both of these are really solid targets here. Both are really obnoxious to deal with, so definitely make sure you have one of the other for one of the other, right? But I'm always a big fan of trying to remove the Saphira from grave. Ghost Ogre onto the Barrier. This is just one of the best hits because the Barrier is really annoying to deal with. And then Ghost Ogre, Veiler, Imperium on either of these here is definitely going to be fine as well. Ritual Beast, you definitely just want to drop a Lancia on them. It's pretty funny. That's something that is going to be really nice, especially into like Noid. But again, this deck and Noid aren't really like that popular, and neither of them are very good. So I mean, we might see them, but I don't really expect them to be like a meta threat or anything, right? Ash onto the effect of Tamer Laura when it gets banished is really nice, or just on Prosp. Either or, this deck bricks a lot and it needs consistency, so hitting either of these is going to be really solid. The Zephyrin Pelika and the Tamer Laura here are not going to be really popular. They are one-ofs in the deck that get banished out of the deck for like a rotation of the Ulticanok effect. But they almost never just get summoned. If they do, you can Bella or Crow the target out. But at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter on these. Bell isn't that great into the matchup. Ghost Ogre onto the Continuous is going to be really nice. And then any of the negations onto the Kanahawk or onto the Banshee. The Banshee is because they're trying to Proto-Slack or they're trying to drop a Colossus on you. So you want to make sure that you have some kind of answer for that. Obviously, you don't want that to be an issue. Tearlament, you can go ahead and just Crow or Magnuma any of the names. Not just Magnuma, but you can just Bishal any name. You can Ash the planet. You can Ash the Shiren effect. More often than not, you'll just Ash him Seti, but this is going to be like the first thing they drop anyway, so you can just go ahead and Ash it then. Or you can just Ogre the Sark, which is equally very strong too. Belling any of the names engraved is also going to be really nice, or just going ahead and negating the Bahamut or the Vampire. Branded, not a whole lot here changes. Hitting the Albion effect when they try to reborn the puppet with Crow or Abyssal, or the branded red target, of course, is equally going to be good. Belling the effect of Sanctifier, you can go ahead and Ash the branded fusion, Ghost Ogre on Cartasia, or just negate a Luber. A lot of these are things I'm trying to just speed on past because we already know what these do. Just a quick refresher. Playing against Chimera, you definitely want to go ahead and crow out the Diabel's Engrave when they try to use Tau to reborn it, just because it's an issue. They can use the 6 to get it back anyway, but if they're forced to use more materials from their graveyard, that's less things that they get to do on your turn, so I still am a fan of that. And then just getting rid of the target off of Baphomet when it's engraved as well, and it tries to reborn. Ash onto the Sword Knight, Bell on the effective Chimera Fusion to come back to the hand. You can Ogre the Couplet and Scale. Usually Chimera plays a Melodious card, so this is not very uncommon to be able to deny this engine from going off. You can also Mourner, Veiler, Imperm onto Baphomet, or if they summon like a Refrain out as their normal summon, you can just hit that instead as well. Melodious, though, you can go ahead and banish the Grave target. The Shapina tries to add back the Soprano, and then the Soprano usually either gets normaled or special summoned out by Pendulum Summon. I would go ahead and just banish the Soprano out. This is something that can cut him off of a lot of resources and deny further fusions. Ash on Ostinato, Bell on Ostinato, Ogre on Couplet, and then any kind of negation on Bacha or Refrain. Yubel, this is a really tough matchup for a lot of decks. Shifter doesn't stop all, but it does hurt. They can't Phantom unless they use cards from hand. I believe it's hand or field, but it's still really awkward to not be able to use cards from your graveyard. So it's still a nice card regardless. Crow or Abyssal onto the Squirmer, just so they can't go ahead and revive. Ash onto the Samsara effect, Bell onto the Squirmer, Ogre onto Nightmare Pain. A lot of times I get questioned on if you hit this or the field spell. I still think Nightmare Pain is better because you just deny access to the pop, and then you deny access to gaining a Squirmer in rotation. And then also just every negation onto the Spirit of Yubel. You want to make sure you deny the Nightmare Pain from coming out. Infernoid, this deck isn't real. It's something that you might see, so I just want to talk about it, but it's not real. DD Crow, the big ones out of the graveyard, so the Deviatis or the Anunkus. Ash the Imagination, but if they're starting, then you want to Ash the Feast. Bell the Wanted, because the Wanted poster gets them into the Original Sin, which then will get them into their Decatron. Ogre onto Imagination, and again, if they're going first and they're trying to search for it, or if they're even going second and try to search for it, they go Void Banishment, pitch a card, and you Ogre it, and a lot of times that's just GG. It depends on their hand, though. And then any kind of negation onto the Yubel Star to turn off that engine from happening. Tenpai. You want to go ahead and DD Crow the seals out of the graveyard when they go to tribute it, when they start, because it will be in a new location and it won't summon from deck, so you won't get like Kawaki'd, right? Or you can just DD Crow the Biden target, which is also really strong. You can Ash the Sangan Kaiman. You can Bell the Biden Dragon effect as well. You can Ogre the summoning. Usually they're not activating the summoning unless their hands are really bad, so keep that in mind. This might not be that relevant, but it could come up. And then any kind of negation onto the Pydra. But what you could do is just negate the Dora Draco if they summon it, which is a Stratos to the deck. If they summon the Genroku and then use Genroku effect, you can just Ash the Genroku. So that's something else to deny them the Pydra, which therefore should deny them the Kaiman. But the Genroku is pretty cool to add to the deck now, but still loses real hard to Ash. Good card nonetheless, though. Vanquish Soul. So Vanquish Soul is definitely very interesting. It's gaining a lot of popularity right now. I really like Imperming on the Mad Love to prevent the Snow Devil, but I do want to just go ahead and stop the Rosin. You can draw phase Imperm the Rock of the Vanquisher if you have an extra one, just so they can't do anything on your turn for the most part. But you want to be able to cut off the Rosin as much as possible. Be able to deny them the heavy infinite resource loops that they could be getting if you don't deny this. Especially if they add like a Jiaolong and the Jiaolong grabs like a Borger and they just get so much advantage. Whichever one they start with, if they start Mad Love or Rosin, you can just ogre it. Unless they have the tag out, they kind of just lose. They also need to open like Staker Soul to extend, because like this off their board is really rough. Then you could do Bell onto Continue or onto the Rock effect to add back. You can go Ash onto Staker Soul or onto the Rosin effect, again just denying a lot of the resource. And then Crow on the continue target, or Crow onto a good target engrave if they're going to try to rock add back. So we have Snake Eye. So you can definitely DD Crow like the Princess out. It depends where they're at in their combo. If they try to go for like a Celine play and you don't really want them to get back like a Dia Bellstar, the one like the big Poplar, right? You can go ahead and get rid of that, but mostly it's just the Princess. Or you can just DD Crow or Bishop out the IP so you don't have to deal with it. Ash onto the Original Sin is really nice. Bell onto the Wanted Poster, of course. Ogre onto the Divine Temple is going to be really fire. That's going to be a really good one. Then any kind of negation onto the Ash, of course. Then the last but not least here I have is Whitewood. Now, Whitewood is a very strong archetype coming out, but we don't really know how great it's going to be. I definitely think that we'll see at least one, though, in Top Cut. Any kind of banish effect, like a DD Crow or like a Bishto onto the toy cards when they try to reborn, mostly Soldier. If they start Tank, then like you can, but like mostly Soldier. Do not let this get summoned. You can Ash the effect of Rosette. If they pitch one and they try to summon, you can just Ash the effect altogether. It's just all one effect in hand. You can also Bell the Toy Soldier from coming back. You can Ogre the Toy Box, and then any kind of negation onto the Asteria is also very strong. I do hope that you enjoyed today's video. There's definitely a lot here. I tried to speed through because you guys have the whole diagram right here too, which is really nice, onto each deck. If there's anything I missed and there's anything that you want to see, definitely let me know down below in the comment section. Again, subscribe to the channel, and I hope to see you all in the next one. Thank you all so much.